This is the Cyprus News Digest with Rosie Charalambous.
Coming up this week, we join a new group, United for Palestine, at a gathering in central Nicosia.
We've come to say that we need to hold our governments accountable, that we will not be passive, we will not sit down and shut up. We will stand up and say, no, enough is enough. We want to free Palestine. So say after me, free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine!
A survey on violence in our schools reveals that 1 in 4 children are bullied and that non-Greek Cypriots are the most likely to be victims.
The findings suggested that non-Greek Cypriots were more likely to be victimized, but also more likely to engage in bullying behavior.
And over 12% of people in Cyprus have diabetes, a worrying figure revealed on World Diabetes Day.
Health eating, gymnastics, sports, health. But I don't know why they don't prevent the increase of the numbers of diabetic people in Cyprus.
United for Palestine is the name of a new group that's been formed to fight for Palestinian rights. Last weekend, they gathered in central Nicosia, and I went to join them.
Yet again, we are in Eleftheria Square in the centre of Nicosia, and joining us this week is the organiser of today's march from Greece. Athina, thanks for joining me.
Thank you for having us.
What made you want to organise this march? I mean, this is the 4th week that we've been here, I think.
Exactly, and every day the news we see more and more horrible images. So the horrible images that we see every day made us think that we have to keep the momentum going. Mm-hmm. We have to have every week, at least once a week, a protest about Palestine. At this moment, the Israeli army has entered Gaza. Gaza has split in two parts. The genocide that is taking place is horrible. We are a group of students, but not only. We are meeting every Monday at 8, and we are deciding there on a General Assembly mode, democratically, as United for Palestine, what kind of actions we can take. And we will not stop until the war is over.
People who are absolutely outraged at what we've been seeing unfold. Some 11,000 people plus have been murdered in Gaza. Almost half of them children who will never see a future because of what's happening. And all the while, we've seen our governments in the European Union, the United States, the UK, Australia as well, stand in solidarity with genocide. They continue to support Israel in their genocide, refuse to call for a ceasefire, continue to arm Israel and support it economically. This is a travesty for humanity that this continues. So in that context, that's why we've called for this protest today. We've come to say that we need to hold our governments accountable, that we will not be passive, we will not sit down and shut up. We will stand up and say, no, enough is enough. We want to free Palestine. So say after me, free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine!
Stop the genocide!
Stop the genocide!
So what we're seeing at the moment, it's very clear. It's the second Nakba. They're not even trying to hide it anymore. They're bombing tens of hospitals, murdering children in cold blood, Israel is doing. I don't know if you remember a couple of weeks ago, they bombed a hospital and then blamed it on Palestinians. Now they don't even bother doing that. They've just been bombing hospitals non-stop for the last week. It's disgusting. Shame on Israel. Shame. And as a result, they're getting the intended effect. Every day, tens of thousands of Palestinians have been forced out of the north of Gaza. And who knows if they'll ever be able to return. Shame on the Israeli state.
It's been 75 years since the occupation and the policy of apartheid. Israel has been demolishing homes and displacing their residents, and administrative detention, killing civilians and confiscating their lands, building settlements in the Palestinian territories, a political and economic blockade. They have managed to make Gaza the only air prison in the world, containing 2.3 million people within an area of 360 square kilometers for 16 years. Only in Palestine, the occupier has the right to defend himself. But what about the right of the Palestinian people who live under occupation? Don't they have the right to defend themselves? What kind of law gives the occupier the right to defend himself, but doesn't give the people under occupation the same right? Isn't this the top of hypocrisy and double standards? Let the whole world hear it. We, the Palestinian people, are a population of 14 million spread across 5 continents. They will not erase us from the political map, even if they use all weapons of mass destruction, destroying homes, universities, hospitals, schools, churches, and mosques, preventing food, medicine, disconnecting water and electricity, killing journalists, doctors and nurses, disconnecting communication and transportation, burning 5,000 children and 3,000 women, displacing people and injured 30,000 of them. All of this will not bring peace and security to Israeli people. Palestine, the homeland of prophets and the land of peace, will never know peace unless justice is achieved and the independent Palestine state with East Jerusalem, its capital, is established. If our Palestinian people do not obtain their full rights and live on their land freely and with dignity like the rest of the people of the world, do not expect us to throw roses in occupation. Resisting the occupation is a natural right recognized by all international law. Thank you and God bless you. Free Palestine!
Free Palestine!
Stop the genocide!
Stop the genocide!
Free Palestine!
Free Palestine!
Stop the genocide!
Stop the genocide! Free Palestine!
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 central Nicosia last Saturday, and the group have promised that they will protest every week about what's happening in Palestine until the war stops.
This is the Cyprus News Digest with Rosie Charalambous.
It seems, according to a recent survey, that children who are not Greek Cypriots are more likely to be bullied in our schools. The man who carried out the survey for the University of Cyprus is Professor of Psychology Kostas Fantis. Kostas, thanks for joining us. This is worrying, particularly when we think of the amount of racism that seems to be surfacing in Cyprus. Will you give us a bit of background about the research you did? Because it was quite a big sample, wasn't it?
Yeah, thank you for the question. First of all, I would say that we had around 20,000 people participating in the study, including parents, students, and also educators. Just to be clear, we didn't measure races as itself. We just compare Greek Cypriots to non-Greek Cypriots, which was general category. And the findings suggested that non-Greek Cypriots were more likely to be victimized, but also more likely to engage in bullying behavior.
You mean they were as likely to be the perpetrators as being bullied?
They were more likely to be the perpetrators and more likely to be victimized. And that's the interesting thing that we find in the study, that the kids that were the perpetrators also were more likely to be victimized as well. So they had a dual role, most of them.
Is that unusual?
That's not unusual. When you engage violence, you tend to be victimized yourself. And that was the majority of the cases, at least in our Cypriot sample. That's what it suggested. And of course, we found a higher percentage in Cyprus that there were both bullies and victims at the same time compared to other countries. So I think that was more of a Cypriot phenomenon as well.
And according to, I think, European research, they said that Cyprus has one of the highest rates of school violence. That's very worrying.
Yeah, it is very worrying, and this is the third time we're measuring it, and we seem to be in an increasing trajectory. So we're at the point that we need to find solutions, and that's what we discuss right now with the Ministry of Education, and I should say that we have a very good collaboration, and we're putting things forward in the next couple of months.
So what sort of things can you put forward? How can this be tackled?
Basically, we find that schools that participate in different interventions, they do have very good results and better quality of life for both the students and the educators. So there are some schools that managed to control it. So what we're proposing is a country-based prevention and intervention program. So we're suggesting to start prevention at the early stages, and then when it's needed to intervene based on the findings of the study. For example, focusing on empathy skills and building self-control, both about behavior and emotions. So that's just some ways. But also, what we found was the importance of the school climate. So a positive school climate could actually do a major change in terms of decreasing the numbers of bullies and victims. So that's something that we want to focus as well.
And will that happen during class hours, or is this more something that needs to go on at break time in the playgrounds?
It can happen during class hours here, but a combination of things too. So we find that the very large percentage of students, they just view this behavior without doing anything, or they just remain around the bullying incidents without engaging in any help for the victims. So we're trying to create a zero tolerance environment for school violence. So that's one of our goals, not to necessarily punish these behaviors, but to create a positive climate with zero tolerance environment.
How far is the role of the family important in all of this? Because I see that several parents said that they had been humiliated by teachers. So some of this must start at home, does it?
Some of it starts at home, and what we find is that, because we also investigated positive findings, parents that manage to have a good relationship with their kids were less likely to bully others. But an interesting finding was that parents were not likely to know if their kids were victimized. So that has a major impact on the students, because they get victimized if they don't mention it to anybody. And that's one of the reasons that we see increases in victimization as well.
So is that to do with lack of self-esteem? They're frightened to tell their parents they're being bullied because they feel bad about it?
Yeah, that's a major reason. They actually feel bad about the behavior that they receive, and they are very fearful, and they create a negative idea about themselves in a fearful environment. And also we see that they have high levels of anxiety, and they tend to be left alone without any contact with peers most of the time.
So there's no support for them. Can I come on to cyberbullying? Because the other problem we have, I think, is that the kids can go home from school, but the bullies can still get at them, can't they, if they're online?
Yes, we find that one in 5 kids tend to be victimized online, and the major reason is that we don't have any control about this behavior, neither families nor schools. And we see an increase in this behavior as well, and the percentage is the same as in other European countries, and it seems to be increasing as the kids get older. And the interesting thing is that they can actually have the same negative influence on adolescents, even compared to traditional bullying within schools.
And that's something that's very difficult to control if kids are spending so long on their phones and tablets, isn't it? Is that something else that the schools may consider addressing?
Yeah, something that we're talking right now with the Minister of Education is that there is around 1 or 2% of the sample that engage in high-risk behaviors. So they tend to be bullies, they tend to vandalize or engage in other delinquent behaviors. And we would like to be focusing on this group as well, because they are a very high-risk group that negatively influence the whole school environment. But also these kids tend to be traumatized by their own family environment as well sometimes. So we need to understand them better and offer them the support they need in order to see a more safe school environment that focuses on education instead of controlling negative behaviors.
It sounds to me as if there really isn't a plan in place to deal with this, and if there is, it's going to take quite a long time.
Yeah, and when we talk about prevention, it does take a lot of time, but I think we need to start from somewhere. And the Minister of Education, she's actually started developing different prevention programs that we start from kindergarten. So there are some things in motion, and some additional things will be in motion pretty soon, I guess.
Have you got any time frame as to when you think this might be brought into at least a reasonable amount of control?
I think this academic year we might see some changes, especially next semester.
We certainly hope so, because it's not something we want to see in our schools, and it's having an impact not just on the emotions of these young people, but also on their academic careers, I imagine.
Definitely. Both people that engage in this behavior, but also at the receiving end, they tend to have lower grades and they suffer academically. Yeah, you're right.
That is Kostas Fantis, Professor of Psychology at the University of Cyprus, telling us about that survey. It was the third part of a survey that's been ongoing for quite some time. Some 20,000 people participated, and it does seem that we need to quite urgently address bullying and victimisation in our schools. Kostas, thanks for sharing your information and data with us.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
Keep up to date with events in Cyprus and around the world with the Cyprus News Digest.
We've just had World Diabetes Day, and always when we have those sort of events, we get the figures about how the world is doing when it comes to, in this case, diabetes. And Cyprus, unfortunately, is not doing very well. It seems that apart from the fact that worldwide diabetes is on the rise, in Cyprus, 12.7% of our population have diabetes. So I've asked the president of the Cyprus Diabetic Association to join me and explain what's going wrong. It's a warm welcome to Stella Skurmouni. Stella, thanks very much indeed for coming on the programme. This is worrying. 12.7%, that's above the world's sort of 10% average, isn't it?
Yes, this is truth. We know. We see that year by year the number is increasing, even if many things to inform people about health living is on every day. But unfortunately, I don't know why we have these numbers in Cyprus.
Is it that we don't eat healthily? Because a few years ago, everybody was saying the Mediterranean diet, it's excellent for the health. Have we turned around and gone the junk food route? What's the cause of this?
Yes, I believe this is something that causes problem, junk food. But as you see, it's not only the problem, it's also to children. And very young children. Nobody knows why, but I believe that health eating, gymnastics, sports, health, but I don't know why they don't prevent the increase of the numbers of diabetic people in Cyprus.
Do we need to get our schools to add more physical education lessons into the syllabus? Because they only, I think, do it once or perhaps twice a week. And if they don't do other exercise outside of school hours, that really isn't enough.
Yes, I believe that school can help also to make sports children at school, also give them advice about what they eat and get off the couch, leave tablets on the side, because this is what most of our children do now, and young people. Sitting in front of a screen days by days, and I believe that the 2 years of COVID make many things happen because children couldn't go out, couldn't go to school, every day at home, no sports, and for other people, of course. And this was something that made damage to many people.
So do you think that it's possible that now we're getting back to normal after the pandemic, that we can get these figures down again?
We hope that we stop to increase the numbers. Get down is impossible because, as you know, diabetes is something that has no cure. Only some people with diabetes type 2, if they try change our living style, maybe, yes, they get rid of medicine. But diabetes type 1, whatever they do, they are still diabetes type 1 and need insulin to live.
Now, the health minister, I think, at the events to mark the World Diabetes Day, said that they would be improving the diabetic clinics in our hospitals. What sort of improvements would you like to see?
Well, we would like to see a complete diabetic clinics. What I mean is, one who has diabetes should have access to many other clinics, like to check his eyes, to check his kidneys, to check his heart every year. And those clinics, if they get improved, I believe we will not have so many complications of diabetes.
Yeah, there can be very serious consequences, can't there?
Of course. Also, the Ministry of Health and the health system now provides to every diabetic person all the medicines that using in the whole world, and new methods, electronics, pumps, sensors to check diabetes 24 hours without using needles. These are very important, and this is something very big that now provides the Ministry of Health and Health System to everybody.
This is good news in terms of patients who already have diabetes, but what about people who don't perhaps know that they have it? What sort of things should they be looking out for?
Well, we do lectures at schools for parents, for children, and not only at schools, through TV programs, through radio programs about health and prevent diabetes type 2. Make it slowly. Make it, instead to have diabetes on your 30s, to have it on your 60s if you live normal and health living.
Yes, but what should people be looking out for? What should ring a warning bell? What sort of symptoms?
First of all, they have to check the history of the family. If they have in their family parents or grandparents with diabetes, they should check themselves with their doctor, make a blood test to know where their sugar levels are. People must learn to do this. If your parents have diabetes, you must be careful and you must check and you must change the way of living.
So we know there is a genetic connection there, but what about people who have no history of diabetes? Because they can also get it, can't they?
Of course. They have to take care of their weight, because we all know that if you don't make any exercise, if you don't walk, if you don't go to a gym, if you only sit and eat, then you get overweight. This is something that will cause for these people diabetes in a stage of their life. Everybody must check their weight, take care, and sports. Make sports. Whatever you can do, even walking. We have the sea, swimming. We have such a lovely weather. Get out of the house, of the office. This is something people start to do it now. You see many people walking around, running, swimming. This is good. But we must do it more. Put in our life sport.
And also, of course, eating healthily. So we all know what we should be doing, but it would seem that a lot of people here perhaps are not doing it if we've got that 12.7% of the population who have diabetes. And the work of your association, I'm sure, Stella, has been very helpful to those particularly newly diagnosed. Many thanks indeed for talking to me about diabetes to mark the 2023 World Diabetes Day. Thank you.
I thank you, and I hope through some of your efforts as a journalist, people must know, people must hear and learn.
Stella Skurmuni, President of the Cyprus Diabetic Association. Well, that about wraps up this edition of the Cyprus News Digest. Many thanks for your company. Hope you'll join me next week. Till we meet again, take care and God bless. Bye-bye now.